Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
Voila! In view, a humble vaudevillian veteran cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. This visage, no mere veneer of vanity, is a vestige of the vox populi, now vacant, vanished. However, this valorous visitation of a bygone vexation stands vivified, and is vowed to vanquish these venal and virulent vermin vanguard and vice, and vouchsafing the violently vicious and voracious violation of volition. The only verdict is vengeance, a vendetta, held as a votive not in vain, for the value and veracity of such shall one day vindicate the vigilant and the virtuous. Verily, this virtuose of verbiage veers most verbose, so let me simply add that it's my very good honour to meet you, and you may call me V.
Very good, mate. That was better this time around.
Yes, technical issues meant I had to do that twice. Probably still got quite a lot of the words wrong, but I tried my best.
No.
So, welcome to Seismic Cinema's review of V for Vendetta. I'm Colin. I've probably not seen it. Paul, our editor, has probably watched this in the wrong order, even though that's impossible.
And I'm James. I have probably written an essay on it, even though I've not done it for this time.
Let down. So we're Seismic Cinema. You can follow us on X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Facebook, both our community page and our regular Facebook page. So please consider giving us a follow. You can also watch and listen on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and Amazon Music. And just a wee call to action, 76.6% of viewers have not subscribed in terms of recent viewers. So please consider getting us up to that 160 mark. That'd be greatly appreciated. And finally, check out the Podpack Collective, a group of podcasters who support each other and produce great content. So please consider giving them a listen.
Welcome to Shatsunami, a variety podcast that discusses topics from gaming and films to anime and general interests.
Previously on Chatsunami, we've analysed what makes a good horror game, conducted a retrospective on Pierce Brosnan's run as James Bond, and listened to us take deep dives into both the Sonic and Halo franchises.
Also, if you're an anime fan, then don't forget to check us out on our sub-series, Chatsunani, where we dive into the world of anime. So far, we've reviewed things like Death Note, Princess Mononoke, and the hit Beyblade series.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and all good podcast apps.
As always, stay safe,
Stay awesome, and most importantly,
Stay hydrated.
Okay, so James, what have you been listening to this week, or watching this week more like?
Not much, to be honest with you, mate. It's been pretty slim pickings. So I was watching, after the back of the Insidious review, I watched the Insidious Chapter 2. So again, like I said before and things, so just kind of wanted to watch the sequel after watching the first one again. Other than that, mate, nothing really. Kind of dipping in and out of the How I Met Your Mother TV show, just kind of random episodes where I'm doing stuff in the background, school work and whatever. So, aye, nothing much. I'm going to go back and watch Lost again, though. Kind of continue where I left off from a few months ago, because
You got to go back.
I've got to go back. It's my destiny.
I've just been doing a bit of a kind of Wonderverse binge. Finished WandaVision, which is a Marvel show I really enjoy. I then watched Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and I've started watching a bit of Agatha all along. On Friday night, Aileen and I watched The Stepfather, which is a movie about a stepdad who is a serial killer, which relates to me on one side of the equation. I won't tell you which. And also, I watched the original Ghostbusters over the weekend as well, which is I've not watched it in years, and it's a lot kind of wilder than I remember it being.
That's right, I
Got
remember
a
you
new kind
putting
of
the-
system. Obviously, it seems that I've watched quite a lot there.
No, I was just saying, I
What's that,
remember
sorry?
you.
Oh, the picture, yeah.
Aye. So that was good. You watched that, mate.
I've started just kind of when I'm getting ready for work in the morning, just having something on in the background. So that's how I've managed to get through a lot of the WandaVision stuff, because otherwise I wouldn't have the time. So just like when I'm brushing my teeth or eat my breakfast, just watching wee bits of things here and there, it all adds up.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
Turn your dial to find the frequency of the past.
Captain Advice.
Where the classic stories of mysteries, sci-fi, thrillers, and suspense are found waiting to be heard once again.
Another case for Nick Carter, Master Detective.
You'll find a variety of those stories here, in their original form, where each episode takes you to another place or time.
The Man of Bronze, Doc Savage.
But only when you find the mystery frequency. Available everywhere.
The shadow knows.
Okay, so just gonna give a wee overview of the film before we talk about our own history with this. So V for Vendetta came out in 2005. It is 2 hours and 12 minutes long. The internet, when you do a Google search, said it's an action/sci-fi movie, but I would actually disagree with that. I would say it's more down like the political thriller route. What would you say, James?
I would say it went down the kind of political route as well.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a kind of sci-fi action. I can see why people do though, because of the elements of, because it's kind of referred to as a DC film, isn't it? So I can see.
Yeah, I was surprised at that when that came up in the opening credits, because I wasn't aware of that at the time.
I know that, mate. Even when I watched it back.
Yeah. Cool. So the synopsis: in a future dystopian society, a shadowy freedom fighter known as V plots to overthrow the tyrannical government with the help of a young woman. This movie was directed by James McTeague. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it kind of looks like that anyway. And also another writing credit went to David Lloyd, who was a graphic artist for the novel, or for the graphic novel. The movie had a budget of $54 million, and the box office kind of takings was 135 million. So it performed pretty well, but maybe not as high as some of the recent ones we've looked at. It won 7 awards and has had 29 nominations. That's not Oscars as such, that's just kind of general nominations. On IMDb, it's got an 8.1 rating. Metacritic at 62 out of 100 and 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. The cast, Hugo Weaving as V. Right, so there's a bit of a recurring gag on this channel. It's usually Star Wars, but I throw Harry Potter in there as well, and it was actually really easy for me this week. So Natalie Portman as Evie Hammond, who is obviously Padme from Star Wars, so that's a nice easy tick off for me. Stephen Rea, is it Stephen Rea? Do you know how to pronounce it, James?
Stephen Rea.
Ray. As Eric Finch. Stephen Fry as Gordon Dietrich. He's another Harry Potter reference, because he does the Harry Potter audiobooks. There's another one for you. They're just laying them up for me here. John Hurt, who plays Ollivander, is Adam Sutler in this one. Tim Pigott-Smith plays Peter Creedy, and I'm introducing a new one this week. Eddie Marsan, who plays Brian Etheridge, is one of the core cast in The World's End.
That's right, so he is.
He's Pete in I think it's Pete, is that his name?
Yeah, I think
it is. Pete in The World's End, which is the only one of the Cornetto trilogy we've not reviewed, by the way, so that may be one to keep in the back pocket for one day. So that's the overview and some of the key information about the movie. So James, what's your backstory with this film?
Well, I certainly didn't see it in the pictures anyway, that's for sure. I remember kind of buying the DVD in HMV when it was around, and you would get your kind of 3 for a tenner type of things, or 3 for 20 quid, whatever it was, I don't know at the time. And I picked it up, and I seen it was Hugo Weaving that was in it, which for me, Hugo Weaving, obviously quite prominent in The Matrix, in Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I'm going to give this a bash. So when I watched it, it was just, I thought it was really, really good. I can't remember at the time it was anything to do with DC or anything, do you know what I mean? So it was,
Doesn't really feel like it though, does it?
no, this doesn't really have this kind of the super hero elements to it or anything like that, but he does have some sort of powers, I guess, but no, I actually really enjoyed it, man. I watched it a few times thereafter, but again, I can probably count in one hand how many times I've seen the film, really. But it's always one you remember.
Cool.
What about you?
Well, sticking with tradition, it's the first time that I've seen it. It wasn't really one that I'd really heard of that much, to be honest, until recent past, and it's only kind of just coming out now that so many different people love this one. It seems to be one that people are quite passionate about. So yeah, it was my first time watching it. I tried to watch it on Friday night, but I'm always useless on a Friday night and just don't have the energy or the attention span to watch films that have a complex storyline. So I rewatched it on Saturday and caught the whole thing because I'm very prone to dozing off. I'm sure you can relate on a Friday night.
Aye, no, definitely.
So just before we get into it, I looked up just a few bits of trivia, just a couple of bits, just before we get started. So the iconic domino scene where V tips over the dominoes to form the giant letter V, which I'm sure we'll agree is a very iconic moment. It actually involved 22,000 dominoes and took 4 professional domino assemblers 200 hours to set it up.
Well, for the first week in a long time, I thought to myself, I'm going to get some trivia in here, and you've just stolen my trivia. Aye. So that's all I had, mate, and then you've just taken it away like a thief in the night.
Well,
just
to be fair, I didn't know, but anyway, I'll steal another one. I thought this one was quite interesting because it was something I wondered about when I was watching it. Why the secret police are called fingermen, and it says because the new order was arranged on the model of the human body. The chancellor was the head, the television station was the mouth, the visual and audio surveillance were the eyes and the ears. Inspector Finch was part of the nose, the police force, and Creedy's secret police were the hand, so therefore his minions were called the fingers.
And actually, I've got that written down as well. So you're doing well, mate. You're 2 for 2.
Well, I didn't know that.
That's all right.
Last one, just a bit about the kind of the comic series, which was created by Alan Moore. However, he, after some previous kind of bad experiences, didn't want any money or credit from Hollywood for future works. So yeah, he didn't want any kind of credit for this film, and I think he was quite critical of it as well.
He done Alan Moore done The Watchmen as well. So he did.
I've not checked that one out yet.
And I think he, again, just kind of, he didn't want to end today with it. So I think quite a lot of things he's done that way.
Yeah. It's interesting. You always seem to get a mix of experiences when there's adaptations. They're either really supportive or really against it, Right, so we'll get into the main review. So the opening scenes is the retelling of the Guy Fawkes failed plot, which was quite an interesting way to start it off. How did you find that as a kind of hook for starting off the film?
It was very quick. It wasn't it wasn't like drawn out or anything, So it was quite quick. It was a wee good introduction to what the whole thing's about. With the Guy Fawkes masks and stuff like that, and the 5th of November. So they set up the whole kind of plot where he was going to bring down the government on that day, and kind of retelling the story of why it was done in the first place.
Yeah.
So I thought it was quite powerful, mate.
Yeah, because I didn't really know too much about the plot of this going in. I knew it had a connection to like Bonfire Night and November the 5th, but I didn't really know what the connection was. So it's quite interesting that Guy Fawkes himself kind of inspires I suppose the story and the plans of V, because it does set up a important part at the start, doesn't it? When he's talking about how like an idea can't be killed, but like a person can.
Aye.
So it was quite an interesting part.
And I says it a few times in the film that an idea can't, you can't kill an idea.
Yeah, and it's true. It's like it's obviously still something that people reference, and it's maybe not as big as Halloween in Scotland, but Guy Fawkes Night is still something that happens every year.
Aye, like the premise of kind of Bonfire Night is the celebration of the fact that Guy Fawkes was caught. The gunpowder plot was stopped, if you want to call it that. So that's
interesting, because that may be some people's perspective, but other people might think like they were celebrating what he was trying to do.
Well, that's also true. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
aye, but I think it's a lot of nonsense anyway.
Because it's who is it that narrates the is it like a love interest of Guy Fawkes that kind of does like or whose voice is it at the start?
I thought it was Natalie Portman's voice, Evie.
That might be.
Not?
I'm not sure. It could be. Anyway, it's a good introduction, and then that takes us into Evie's introduction, and she's obviously you quickly establish that there's lots of rules in place in London at this time, and there's curfews. You don't really know why at this stage, and Natalie Portman's obviously going off somewhere of importance. So it turns out she was meant to be going to meet her boss, isn't it? Who we learn more about as we go on. But then this is the first of two very difficult scenes to watch, where the fingermen kind of corner Evie in the street, and they're being very suggestive, and you're immediately kind of fearing for her safety there.
Aye, you kind of get that's what I've seen. You kind of get a few things from it. So you get the propaganda on the walls and stuff like that. Unity, kind of that sort of stuff's on the walls. You get the curfew with the speakers. So you kind of get that kind of Big Brother kind of thing. It's the whole theme of Big Brother 1984. Is all through the film as we'll go on. But yeah, that scene in particular with the fingerman, which I find a very strange name, but obviously you've covered why that's why that is. The secret police who capture people, anyone outside their house, out breaking curfew. They meet Evie. Aye, it's that kind of it's quite what they're going to do here, because there's two of them. There's only one of her. She's obviously very kind of powerless, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
and they're very suggestive what they're going to do here. I mean, it looked like they were going to do some bad things there. But aye, she was like saying, "Oh, I know I'm breaking curfew. I've got a sick uncle and all that sort of stuff." But they don't care. You break the rules, you got to pay for it. You know what I mean? So, but there's somebody that save the day, mate.
And also, there's another reason. Like, obviously, you find out later on that her parents were like rebels, essentially. So there's added danger for her going out and breaking curfew, because she's probably people like the police are probably aware that, or they are aware of who her parents were. So that gives her that extra bit of danger. So it's a good opportunity to introduce V here, because if you're looking at the marketing for this film, if you look at the images in our background with the Guy Fawkes mask, you could be forgiven for thinking he's going to be just like an outright horror villain in a sense. But the way he steps in here, and although he does commit various murders throughout the film, he's more of a kind of vigilante in a sense, isn't he? And that he's taken down these people that are doing bad things or about to do bad things, and it's What did you make of V's introduction in this scene?
Aye, it's iconic, isn't it? I mean, he's a vigilante. He's like Batman in a sense, isn't he? That, you know, Batman seeks for justice and vengeance and stuff. The only kind of difference is that he actually kills people, where Batman doesn't.
Yeah.
So that's the slight difference you would know there. But I mean, you can tell him, like, when he introduces himself, he makes it clear to Evie that he's loaned out the hammer. She asks who he was, and he makes a joke about the fact that why are you asking a masked man who he is, and how it's a paradox. He's very well spoken, and you kind of see that and hear that for obviously his introduction with the use of alliteration, with the number of V's in his sentence, which I don't know the meaning of half of them. If she goes like that to him, are you like a crazy person? And he goes, well, some might say so. But no, it was really good.
He's very likable, isn't he?
Aye. I mean, obviously he's got his own kind of backstory to why he's doing all this stuff anyway, but he's not there to kill innocent people or hurt innocent people. And then when he finds out her name as well, it's almost as if like there's a light bulb moment for him because he knows. Because he goes EV. Kind of thing. That's what I took from it.
So then he takes Evie up to like the top of the building, and he's talking about how he's going to do like some kind of musical performance. And obviously, I've only seen this film the full way through once, but I'm going to assume that the conducting scene is one of the or probably the most iconic scene of the film, or definitely up there.
Maybe the end, maybe as well.
Yeah, I suppose they're quite similar in a lot of ways, in certain ways. So
I know. So, the music and stuff is is quite good because it's just that way where you don't really know, and then you can hear that coming through the speakers, and he's kind of. You know what I mean? So that is really good.
Conducting it, so this is where I've developed a wee bit of what's the word? Culture. So it's Beethoven's 1812 Overture was the music that he played, which is another link to the government rules because music, along with lots of other things, have been outlawed. And then there's a wee girl who's really surprised to hear that there's music in the street. Doesn't
it mention it's Tchaikovsky, not Beethoven?
Well, my sources are wrong then.
I'm pretty sure he says. I think it's your Brian Etheridge. It says that he goes, "Oh, it was Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture."
Yeah,
and he goes, I said put it in the blacklist, knowing that music's not getting heard again. Sorry, mate, I just had to correct you there.
That's all right. That's your revenge for stealing my trivia. And obviously, ChatGPT have got to up their game then.
Well, mate, I'm pretty sure he says in the film it is Tchaikovsky.
It just shows how they can ban things on a whim and just like anything that doesn't, like anything they don't approve of or want people to be able to do, they can just eliminate right away.
That just shows the power of them. Yeah. I mean, anything they don't like, it's going on the blacklist, and that's it. And then nobody's going to be listening to it, watching it. We hear about films later on that films are banned.
So the music comes on, he's conducting, and then the Old Bailey blows up right on cue, followed by some fireworks as well. And it was mentioned later in the film that the fireworks weren't planned. That's what they kind of mentioned in the film, whether that was true or not.
It
was mentioned later on in the film that there were certain elements of it that were planned, but the fireworks just was like a happy coincidence. But that could,
because they're trying to cover it up, so they think they set the demolition time for that time to happen. But they were saying, okay, how can the fireworks? He just said, well, the fireworks weren't planned, so somebody's going to get get the consequences for that.
when you're saying that, it's bringing it back. So it's like, so they're always coming up with like elaborate ways to cover up what's actually happening.
Aye.
And then they're obviously throwing out the message that all the old buildings are like a danger and aren't that important, and that they can be replaced.
That's it. Because if that can happen to the Old Bailey, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a big building. It's iconic for them. It's got a meaning behind it. Nothing's safe, so they're just putting that strategy in place in case something happens to something else again, and then it's not a surprise to people when they say it. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I thought anyway.
Because somebody comments that why did they blow the Old Bailey up? He's like, Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament, and then obviously that becomes his long-term aim. And it's because there was a point where they said, because when he kind of takes Evie hostage in a sense, he's like, this is going to happen on November the 5th, and it's like, well, what date is it now? And like it's past midnight, obviously, so it's like a year's time. So there's like that kind of long build up to his like ultimate plan.
That's it.
Which is obviously his, yeah.
I mean, obviously, a year. Obviously, he goes to you come into enemy, but he gives them all a year's warning that this is what's going to happen. But I don't know what you thought, mate, about the whole kind of doing over the film is based over 1 year. So I
quite liked that aspect, to be honest, because it showed that he had a long-term plan. It makes that scene with the dominoes all the better because it shows he's been kind of pulling all the strings and is kind of putting everything into place. So I'm quite glad it happened over that period of time rather than just on like 1 day.
Aye. See, when like, because you don't really know what time of year it is, but he does give you clues because when he goes to kind of kill, and we'll come on to it anyway, the voice of London, Pothero, he says that he's the ghost of Christmas past, which gives you a sense of time of year it is. In regards to the dominoes, mate, as well, like it shows you what I took for the symbolism of patience. The patience to actually have to build the actual. I know it wasn't Hugo Weaving that done it, but it's V who put the dominoes in place. And that's not easy to do. So I just took patience from that he's waited all this time and he's been patient.
Yeah. Cool. So the next big scene is the TV broadcast scene where V kind of breaks into the BTN building to deliver his message on the TV, and there's quite a lot to unpack in that scene. It was quite funny how they made it like VTV in the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, I liked that. Everything he changed. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's kind of some sort of skit, isn't it? That was good.
Because it made it quite hard to tell what was going on at times, because obviously like most of the people in the building ended up with the Guy Fawkes masks on, and they were like uncovering people one at a time. There was somebody who had like kind of like fruit in his mouth, and each time they unmasked somebody, they found out something more about the plot, and that there was like an explosion rigged and things like that.
I mean, the whole broadcast to the people, because when you give the speech, we were seeing it from different perspectives. So we were seeing it from the perspective of like it was a kind of old folks home or something like that, wasn't it? And then when you're watching the TV, you'd have every house and where you would go to would have a picture of a sutler, John Hurt, because it's like that kind of dictatorship, kind of like, I don't know, Hitler or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, there's massive references to Nazi Germany in this.
Well, there's one scene where he's giving a speech and it's like all the kind of red colours and it's very on the nose.
Yeah, there's that, and then even like any dictator, it's like Saddam Hussein and all that sort of stuff. They would have people would have pictures and portraits of them on their walls. Do you know what I mean? But you can say as well, like when V was giving the speech, like people were people were taking it in. You know, he was giving the warning. He was saying this. You know, the rest of it. There was like was that the wee lassie with the kind of milk bottle glasses on as well. She had she was like taking in what he was saying. Like she believed everything. Do you know what I mean? And she was getting quite emotional during it as well. Like even when they obviously tried to cover up that he was dead, and he's like, it's bullshit. Do you know what I mean? That's not what happened and stuff. You can sense that even the people in the pub as well, like pub are like that, like no, this is like nonsense. So people are aware of this. Like people are aware of the potential cover-ups and things, but they don't want to say it. They're scared to actually say things out loud because Big Brother's watching them. They can listen, they can see, so they just have to kind of, go with it.
There was a quote that V had. It was like, people shouldn't be afraid of their government. The government should be afraid of their people, or something along those lines. This kind of part of the film, because obviously you go to like the pub and the houses. It's always like it keeps it quite tight because it's always like the same houses because you revisit them various times throughout the film.
Aye.
And then you've got the great scene at the end of the film where all those places are empty because they've all joined the uprising with the masks, which is quite a good bit. But this part actually reminded me of one of our favourite TV shows. Can you think what it is?
Which part in particular? Sorry.
The bit with the TV broadcasts. Like and into the people's homes and the pubs and things like that.
I've seen it a few times, mate. But
it made me You froze a bit there. I've wrote it down.
30 minutes. You're frozen.
Yeah, I wrote it down. You're
30
saying
minutes.
I'm frozen, but for me, you're frozen as well. So I don't know. It's hard to tell what the origin point is, you know. Right.
We'll start at 31.
31, yeah. So
one of our favourite TV shows.
Right.
Okay, so one of your favourite TV shows. Just trying to think what you have in common in terms of TV shows. I mean, Lost, obviously. I don't remember having it in Lost. Just tell me, mate.
It reminds me of the very first episode of Black Mirror, where they keep flashing to the pub and the hospital and people's homes for their reactions to the broadcasts.
Right, okay. Aye.
You know what I mean?
Prime Minister. Aye.
Yeah.
Because I had to be shown live. That's right, mate. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So there's obviously a lot of confusion going on in the scene with like who's who, and you get a scene kind of similar to our background where you get lots of different people in the masks, and there's quite a big moment where Evie's about to get well, actually she goes up and kind of sprays one of the kind of law enforcement with the mace, and then that kind of solidifies, like she's starting to make choices where she's kind of starting to align with V, which kind of leads to them getting together.
Aye, because V's quite impressed with he says the quote, "Oh, I'm sweet surprised at the response time of London's finest."
Yeah.
So he's kind of trapped,
but
then Evie kind of she maces them. And then she gets knocked out, doesn't she? So he's got a decision to make. So does he allow her to go, and because she will get captured because she is wanted? So does he then say, right, okay, if I keep her, she's got to stay with me for a long time, or do I risk the fact that she knows where I stay? No, she knows she met me. She knows the
smart man would work it out.
Aye, so he makes a decision, I think, probably the right one to bring her, because I think he knows what they're like. They will torture her and stuff, and she might not even make it. Because she was complicit to the fact that, the Old Bailey at the start and the fingerman and all that. So there was that. She had to, have the repercussions for that if he left her. So he made the decision, which I think was the right one, to take her under the wing and then go to V's lair.
Yeah, and he's got a really interesting setup where he's like obviously against all the government rules, and he's got his music and he's got his art and all sorts. And it's quite an interesting scene when she wakes up and he's like making breakfast, like eggs, I think, that he stole from Sutler. They were on their way to Sutler.
Aye, says that.
And you get quite a horrifying scene where you start to see like his story, where you see how burnt his hands are when he's making the breakfast, and then he puts the gloves on, but she's not. That right away you see Evie's not like repulsed by him. Like she's more concerned about what happened to him rather than like what he looks like, which says a lot about her character in that moment.
Aye. Because see, even like when V is, making the egg and basket or something like eggy basket or something it's called, he's flipping it in the frying pan. It's a different. You don't really see that. Like, he's a very serious guy, but he's making the breakfast and stuff. He's flipping it, and he's a different kind of character. And he's like, "Oh, bonjour, mademoiselle," and he says that to him. And she apologised to him. But it's just the burns in the hands, like that right away. That's like, oh, what happened to him? How come he's all that? And she was like, she doesn't care about what's behind the mask. Do you know what I mean? She knows why. She knows why. At the end of the day, why he's got the mask on. But again, she wants to know what happened to him. How did he get the burns and stuff? Which again, it does say a lot about her. But you get quite a similar kind of scene later on in the film. Not with the burnt hands, but with the egg in the basket.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Aye, it kind of mirrors it.
Aye.
That's quite a funny scene though, because Gordon's like, "You've got me. I'm V."
It's because he says the same thing. So he makes the same breakfast and he says "Bonjour, mademoiselle" as well. So it's like
you can be forgiven for thinking that, but then he obviously starts making jokes about his like appearance and his weight and stuff like that.
Aye.
Like, do you really think I could be doing all these things?
I know.
Obviously, we'll get into that bit kind of more as we go on. So then Evie's basically told that she's not very keen at first to be locked away, but she eventually kind of comes to see that what he's saying is right, and that and we've also talked a wee bit about Evie's backstory and that her parents were kind of rebelling against the government, and she realizes that she's probably safer where she is. Just to touch on Evie's backstory, there's obviously the scene where the kind of police force they come along for her parents, and then you see the scene of her under the bed, and then like she sees her mum getting put into like the black bags, which are like referenced quite a lot because nobody ever comes back from that. It was quite interesting that it was obviously intentional, but when we're jumping out about a wee bit, but it all kind of links together. When Gordon does like the kind of parody of Sutler on his TV show, it's obviously quite inevitable that they're going to come for him, and then they mirror that scene exactly where she's under the bed this time as an adult, and she sees Gordon getting dragged away in the black bag. Aye.
See, before I go into that again, I just wanted to kind of touch on the kind of V's layer, because like she was asking them about like how would you get all this stuff? Did you steal it all? And he's like, no, you can't steal from the censor. Like you can't steal from what's already been out there and all that sort of stuff. And but there's a lot of interesting artifacts in there. Do you know what I mean? He's got loads of these collectibles, and he's got this kind of jukebox as well, which is like plays all the music. But do you know what else is in there, like in the jukebox that I seen?
What's that?
if you look very closely, you'll see the latest podcast episode of What's the Script.
Very good.
Aye, I tried to think it in there. So you can check out What's the Script on all audio platforms. Anyway, back to ours.
But there is a lot of similarities, I suppose, between V and Gordon in that they both love their music and their art. They both suffer at the hands of the government, although Gordon's up to a point eluded them by keeping his sexuality quiet, and that was why he was meant to be meeting Evie in the opening scene, because someone in his job as like the head of the company was kind of expected to entertain the younger ladies that worked for him, but he was really just a friend of hers and was doing that to give off that public perception.
He's just towing the party line, isn't he? He's just gonna everything he stands for is not getting represented at all. He wants to keep his home. He wants to stay alive.
Yeah.
And he's obviously depressed because of it. But it doesn't take away the fact that he's everything that he's got in his house.
Mm-hmm.
The past is the past, and it's what's created. So different kind of, because he is he's not a freedom fighter in the same way as V is, but he believes he's in what V's cause is. I mean, it just goes about it the wrong, maybe not the wrong way, but just a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned there about the whole kind of, because Stephen Fry's character Gordon is a TV host. If you could have like I don't know, like a Jonathan Ross or something like that. And he makes fun of Adam Sutler. And Evie was a wee bit like, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that sort of thing, because that's what's going to come of that." And he goes, "What are they going to do? Because he's got the highest ratings in the country." But he's just saying that because he like to kind of not let Evie worry or anything, but he knows deep down that they'll come from.
He must have known that something was coming. It reminds me of that scene with the parody. It reminded me a wee bit of, the bit in Game of Thrones where they like recreate some of the key scenes with like puppets and stuff like that. Kind of reminded me a wee bit of that. How they're just like making a mockery of all the important people in the land.
Aye.
So he obviously mentions like Evie goes to Gordon when she like kind of escapes from, to an extent, from V, and she's worried about her safety. But he mentions that if like harboring a fugitive is secondary to like all his art and other contraband getting found.
Actually, it's Lacey's worries. He says that a few times.
Yeah.
He kind of shows her why, because he's got like not everything that V's got, but he's got similar things to what V's got. All the artifacts and things. Got a copy of the Quran.
And that's ultimately what puts the nail in his coffin, that he had that.
I mean, it shows you as well, like the government, Nosfire, like they're called, are very oppressive. They don't allow for homosexuals, race. I don't think you ever seen a black person in this film either. Come to think of it. All that, like race, creed, and all the rest of it, is kind of a reflection on Nazi Germany as well. There was like concentration camps as well, like all the stuff that you see in where they all go to is a reflection of some kind of government before.
Yeah,
and it's so he had the copy of the Quran. He had loads of other stuff in there, but he's obviously his sexuality as well was kept hidden. And so the fugitive in Evie wouldn't have mattered because he was getting tried before all that anyway.
Yeah, but he was like I kind of viewed it like he was a wee bit of a parental figure to her in a sense, because that kind of also shows why she had the flash, like the mirrored the scene where he's taken away like her mum was.
Aye. Yep, that's when Trudy goes in that scene. Not so funny now, Mr. Funny Man. I hated that guy, by the way. I just hated Creedy.
Yeah,
I hated them
yeah.
all. There's no, but I just
The actors obviously did a great job with that. So I decided I'm going to just change the structure of the review a wee bit because just kind of came to me that so obviously you obviously see the flashback to V in like a kind of burning building, and then you see him walk out, and he's just got absolutely no face. So he's obviously operating throughout this film like blind. Like who knows what senses are actually working for him. And it's interesting and I quite like that that's the only time you see like what he looks like, because there's so many times where people want to like take his mask off and have that unmasking scene like that comes up in so many different films. But I think what actually set this film apart was they didn't go for that trope. They just like when he said no, he meant no, and he fought back on it. He didn't actually allow people to make him vulnerable and take that mask off. Even Evie.
Aye. I mean, I hit the Lark kill. I don't think you even seen his face. It's more like a silhouette of the burning, like the fire behind him and things. He was so you don't really
I thought
see.
more like just what you saw was his face, what was left of it. That was the way I viewed it anyway.
I didn't even think that, mate. I just thought it was just like a shadow. I know it's not a shadow, but it was like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he didn't take the mask off was probably one of the best things about it, because if you get often enough, you need to find the person behind the mask. There's Iron Man and all that sort of stuff. Find the person behind the mask. We don't need to. I don't
Takes
think
the
it was.
presence away a wee bit, doesn't it? Like
Aye.
once you see like characters without the mask, it quite often just takes away the fear factor from them a wee bit.
Aye. I mean, the fact that the mask as well, the Guy Fawkes, he's always smiling as well. That's quite
unnerving.
He's killing folk and he's talking to folk all the time, but the mask is always smiling.
Yeah. So the incident, there's lots of different things going on. Obviously, they were testing in like the kind of concentration camps in a sense. There was like kind of testing going on in human beings. You see a lot of the people who didn't survive just getting tossed into a pit, like they were trash. You find out that there's a kind of virus being spread into like it was the train station, the school, and the river. Is that right?
Aye, is it St Mary's?
Yeah, and these are the things that have ultimately led to what happened to V in terms of the burning, but obviously what kind of fueled his rage against the regime as well. So there's some key people involved, and the kind of rest of the film is basically him taking out the different people involved in the kind of human testing and the virus, but he does it all in kind of different ways and with sometimes different kind of responses from the people. So you talked about Louis Prothero earlier, the propagandist. What did you make of his death scene?
Aye, because we came in, he was having a shower, wasn't he? And then the fact he's getting TVs in his shower and all that, does it mean it's like that's a bit strange.
We don't even have that now. Well, I don't know if you do. I said you can't even get that now in 2024, but maybe you can.
it's just his kind of his persona though. Like he's got to hear his voice all the time, and then when he turns the TV off, you see V's background, his shadow. He called him Commander because that's how he knew him. He's like, "Why do you keep calling me Commander?" Because that's what you did when you did the experiments. He was kind of ordering them all around.
Yeah.
So, and he at the same time he twisted the truth as well. What happened to people, and it was it was horrible. But he's got his own personal vendetta against these people because these are the folk to blame. So he was it poison into it, and just in a heart attack or something like that. You kind of see on the floor the spew, but he leaves a kind of a rose as well.
Yeah, that's right.
which is prevalent to know why he does that.
Yeah, becomes his kind of calling card in a sense.
Aye.
So the next one is not just their involvement in the kind of main reason for V's vendetta, but Bishop Lillyman was obviously brought into the kind of testing facility to make sure that they were like treating people well and respecting people. But the way that V uses Evie to get him, it's an interesting one, because Evie's at that point is wanting to escape, and she like pre-warns that V's going to come and to kill him, but his actions is obviously that he has a history of abusing young women, and like he's warned previously that Evie might be too old for him, which obviously shows that prior there's been a lot younger females in there. So I think for V, but also for the wider audience, I think he gets his comeuppance essentially.
Aye. He's got a history for before. And V uses like Evie as well as a kind of pawn in this as well.
Yeah, he did her, what was it, her dramatic abilities or something?
Aye,
Acting abilities.
that's it. So she's in the room with the bishop. He kind of sees all the things, and then she warns him because she's found this. So she agrees. She's found a way that she can maybe escape. She warns the bishop that the V's coming. He doesn't believe her, obviously. He's about to commit an act, and that's where V comes in, and he kind of saves the day again. But before that, he says to V, "Oh, she was telling the truth." So instantly, there's the kind of trust broken in there between them both, because she would have done anything to escape.
Yeah.
And then kind of V's kind of maybe heart was maybe a wee bit broken there, because he trusted her and enlisted her as a like an accomplice type thing, and he wanted her to get rid of the fear, but the fear was also being trapped in with V, and she only went to, but she wanted to go somewhere she was safer with people who she knew, and that was with Gordon.
It doesn't. In a lot of ways, it wasn't that she didn't like him, or like I think she did care for him, did like him. I think she just wanted her own kind of personal freedom and didn't want to be kind of held captive in a sense.
No, that's it. Where are you? You want to be free. You mean she was stuck there. So she wanted to have the ability to roam about, and even though she was a fugitive, if you want to call it that, she just wanted to be away and be free for a bit. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. I don't blame her, to be honest with you, for that either.
Yeah. So then obviously she takes off and kind of takes refuge with Gordon, and we've also talked about Gordon and how it mirrored the scene with V with the breakfast and the greeting in French, and kind of what he does with the TV show and his ultimate demise. So we've kind of covered that bit. So what kind of goes from there after Evie's essentially captured, and so she's in prison essentially, and she receives because we'll get to like what's actually happening later, but she obviously gets the letter. She's locked up and she's not really budging. She's been quite loyal to V there. Like she's not really giving them the whereabouts or who he is. Well, she doesn't really know who he is, but she's not answering the questions. But then the kind of big, but she's pretty miserable. The big change obviously comes when she receives the letter from Valerie.
Aye, I mean, she doesn't give in. Doesn't answer the questions. She goes through the kind of the torture. Even gets her hair shaved off as well. You mean part of the.
Did Natalie Portman not have like a shaved head for a reasonable period of time? Like just generally, I'm wondering if it was around about the same time as this movie. I'm assuming it probably was.
Probably was. She got her eyes. So that shows her about her commitment to the role as well. Do you know what I mean? That she wanted to go ahead and get her head shaved, or a hair shaved off, I should say. But the whole Valerie letter, because Valerie, again, it's about the sexuality, wasn't it? And who she wanted to be with, and again oppressed to that, and it did change. So again, it just shows you how much the the government was a bit oppressive. Or I don't even know, like, just how it mirrors, kind of a Nazi Germany, really. In nothing happens other than just this, and this is normal. You can't be doing this. You can't be having relationships with men and women, whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? So it did change when that letter was given to her, or found, whatever way you want to put it.
You obviously find out this is V that's been kind of make her think she's imprisoned, and she's been, because at first she comes out of her cell and then she's in his like home, and I was like, is the prison and his house connected? But obviously you find out that it was all just a kind of big illusion of his. And she then starts to doubt whether the letter was genuine, but then it turns out that it was him it was V that was in like the prison of sorts, and he received the letter from Valerie, so the letter was actually legitimate.
Aye, everything's getting passed down.
So that's a really powerful scene, and this is where Evie really starts to, because she's been kind of on the fence the whole film, really, hasn't she? Like she obviously agrees with aspects of what V's talking about, but she's not quite ready to take that leap and really commit to it. But there's a great scene where she walks out into the rain, and they cross cut it with V walking out of the fire, and it's obviously showing that they've been through similar things, but also that they are different as well. Like the whole kind of contrast between the flames and the rain, isn't it?
You can always kind of the rain kind of is a kind of cleansing rebirth type thing of knowing what's she now knows the truth, and she's got a kind of what she needs to do now to help fulfill the what's the destiny, but what V's planning to do.
Yeah. So we've obviously talked about a couple of the deaths so far. The one that kind of stands out as different is the Dr. Delia Surridge, who is originally the coroner, and the detective or Inspector Finch, who we've not talked about yet. He is talking to her, and he like shows her the flower, the plants and things like that, and he goes away, and then he's finding out more information about the people who are on the list of people involved in the conspiracy, and then he obviously finds out that she's changed her name and that she was one of the people involved. But what obviously made her different was her, like, she seemed quite a bit different than the other people that were murdered.
Aye, she was the head scientist in the place, and when you could tell when Finch was talking to her as well, that the what is the name for that flower? Can't remember. It's not a rose, but it's something else.
Yeah.
But anyway, she knew what it came for. Do you know what I mean? She said that I think they're extinct now or something. She said, but so she knew where they came for. That flower, but she did, because she, when talking to V, she seemed to have like genuine regret. You know what I mean? So I don't kind of condone that sort of stuff, and I regret it all, and she feels sort of like kind of like empathy between for V and the people they experimented on. You know what I mean? So this kill was slightly different to the one before.
Yeah, she was quite accepting of her own fate, and you think for a second, is V going to let her off because she's showing remorse? But it obviously shows he's quite sticking to his plan, and like he's quite determined to kind of follow through and things.
He's a man of his word. You know what I mean? He's not showing any remorse.
So that scene kind of stood out for me because it did show that at least one person involved in the cover up had a wee bit of regret in there. So it's a good moment, I would say, to talk about Finch, who makes you think of American Pie. But I thought he was actually one of the standout characters in the film because he's got like that kind of foot in both camps. Like he's part of the system, but you can tell from the get go that he's a wee bit more open minded and really wants to get to like the actual truth and find justice.
Aye, I do like Finch's character in it.
Yeah.
Because even me sitting at the table with Sutler, the head, and Sutler just treats him like a piece of trash. Do you know what I mean? Like garbage.
Yeah.
He's just kind of, your opinion doesn't matter, your feelings don't matter. You're just here to do a job. Find this, find that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't take anything he says as seriously, and he's not really valued in the same way that other people are maybe valued. Even though Adam Sutler's opinion of people is pretty low anyway, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's even lower than that. He's kind of lower than a snake's belly type of thing. Do you know what I mean? So he wants to seek the truth. So he wants to know. He's wary of the secrets of the government. That's why he goes to different people to ask about, Larkhill, St Mary's. He talks about going to see. He finds out the names of people. But it's to the point where he's conducting this investigation, but he's got to use his wee device to kind of block out the big brother so no one can hear the conversation. Because if Sutler or anyone was to find out he was having this conversation, then he would be pulled in. You know what I mean? So I think his heart's in the right place.
He obviously, fast forward a wee bit, but he has obviously the big moment where he sees Evie with the train that's about to go and blow up Parliament, and he basically allows it to happen.
Aye. So at that point, Evie becomes V in a sense, and he takes him up to listen to the orchestra. It's like, it's like realization of the truth type of thing.
So we've got a few more deaths to just cover. So Sutler is eventually kind of kidnapped, and so Creedy's kind of like, I suppose, the double crosser here. Like he's part of the government setup, but he's the one that executes Sutler because he's got some kind of deal with V. So Sutler was quite afraid at the end, wasn't he? He went out with quite a whimper in the end.
Aye, it was pretty poor. Because Creedy had to deal with V because basically Sutler was blaming Creedy for everything. So if V was to succeed, Creedy was out on his arse. Do you know what I mean? He was going to get resigned, but you'd probably be deep mate as well, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? Because he failed, so he kind of knew everything that V had set out today. He had succeeded, so this would be nothing different. Could he seen that, and he thought, well, if I can make a deal with V here, I'll get V. I know who he is. Then I can kill Sutler, and then I can maybe change. He had maybe a vision for him to change Britain. You know what I mean? But he did. He shoots him, didn't he? It was kind of he expected somebody who was so powerful for so long to maybe have had a kind of more kind of, I don't want to say graphic death, but something a bit maybe stand out a bit more. So I was a bit disappointed in that one.
So obviously after that happens, Creedy's then trying to find out who V is, and again he refuses to take the mask off, and then this is where V just starts getting shot down, and it's a wee bit like the kind of end scene in The Matrix, not dodging the bullets, but he just takes all the bullets. And obviously you find out earlier that whatever happened to him led to him developing certain abilities and protections, but It's a weird one because he seemed to take all these hits, and then he still responds and wipes out Creedy and all his henchmen. But I found it interesting that he still succumbed to the injuries thereafter. Like, I was quite surprised that he actually died in the end because it was made out like he was like bulletproof.
Aye, I mean, through the experiments, I think he got kind of like superhuman power. That was kind of emphasised at the start as well because he punched one of the fingermen and he went like right against the wall. But it wasn't obvious like Captain America type thing. Do you know what I mean? It just was still a normal punch face, like a normal person. Aye, so he could withstand a great amount of pain, but he's not regeneration. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't do that. Doesn't regenerate or anything, so he can withstand a great amount of pain. Probably, from the fire as well. Do you know what I mean? He was burnt.
Yeah.
And he withstood that pain. It did remind me of the Matrix a wee bit because with the guns, but also with the knives as well. He threw the knives in like kind of no bullet time because it's no bullets, but he would say it's like kind of knife time type of thing. Do you know what I mean? Where it would be slow motion knife fight. So it did remind me of the Matrix that wee bit, which again Disney surprised me considering it was written by the Wachowskis. Do you know what I mean? So they probably had an influence in that as well. So I like that scene. I like the bit where he goes as well, like you better be because you'll be dead before the time you reload. He's obviously very fast as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So then, as I said, I was quite surprised that V ultimately died. He kind of stumbles towards the train and then he declares his love for Evie, which at first I was like, I don't like that. But then when I actually thought about it, I was like, well, throughout the film, he has been really like kind to her. He has really cared a lot about her. For me, it's a better love story than the Matrix love story. That was something I didn't quite like. Was the like Neo and was it Trinity's? I didn't really buy their kind of relationship, but I actually thought this was a wee bit better. Although it was a bit strange when she gets up and kisses him on the mask. But I suppose that was all she was able to do.
Aye. I mean, I think it is a love story because he has to dance as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
We forgot to mention that he really wanted to dance.
He wanted to mention aye, so he really wanted to do that. It was because some people would maybe I don't know would maybe say that V was maybe a father figure rather than a lover. I mean, but I would go down the road of a lover because
I'd say Gordon was more the father figure.
I
I
would say as well. I would
it's
say
not a
as well.
traditional love interest. It was maybe more like a shared ideology and experience that made them grow closer.
We have to remember as well, she spent near enough a year with him.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean, in the shadow gallery.
Yeah.
So I think that, and he opened her eyes to like films like The Count of Monte Cristo and all that, like films with a band, and you know what I mean. So there was that as well that I don't know. So I think it was more a good. It was kind of wasn't a traditional love story, but it was more like the love story wasn't a key part of the film. It was a kind of back bit, and it kind of shown it at the end.
He had a hard life, but it was nice, I suppose, that he had a wee bit of happiness in his interactions with her anyway. So obviously you find out that his V's final act, I suppose, is the loading the train that's on its way to Parliament with the explosives, and he basically gives Evie the choice, I think, whether she wants to follow through with his plan or not do it. And then ultimately she makes the decision, having seen the inspector as well, she makes a decision to go through with it because the people needed was that a reminder, they said? Rather than and it all kind of goes back, I suppose, to the what's the word we're looking for? Not the person, the idea. I suppose it all links back to the start of it. And then the ending is pretty awesome, I must admit. When you've got all the people wearing the Guy Fawkes masks, like marching, and you see them like shots of them from above, and then you see all the kind of empty houses and all the kind of anarchy that's going on, and it all ends with the kind of blowing up of the Parliament building. And when you're from the UK and I'm not sure if you've been to London.
I've been to London now.
Yeah, when you've actually been to these places, it's pretty surreal seeing them. I made a joke to Aileen that when we went to London, the Big Ben was getting a makeover because of this film.
See the shot you're talking about the kind of bird's eye view.
Aye.
You can see that the mask, the costumes coming down. You can see it almost in a V as well. Do you know what I mean? They're coming.
It's a bit like the dominoes, isn't it?
Aye. So it's
like
that.
So yeah, well, that's the film. There's a lot to unpack. Hopefully, I did it justice. I had a wee bit of the imposter syndrome at the start here. I was like, how do you even begin tackling this film? But I feel that we've given it a good go.
I've got a wee bit of see how where Finch learns about St Mary's, that he goes and visits, like he meets somebody.
Was
it Rookwood? What his name is?
Oh yeah, we forgot that bit.
So that's V. That's
yeah.
Well, that's V's persona.
I worked that bit.
See when like he spoke about these people. So he spoke about obviously Rookwood, Digby, and I think it was Catsby. They were all actually the people who were conspiring against the government with Guy Fawkes.
All right.
Those are the names of the people. So
apologies for bringing in another Harry Potter reference, but there was actually a character called Rookwood in Harry Potter, and he was a Death Eater, but he was a spy within the Ministry. So I'm wondering if they got the name from that as well.
No, I would have thought they would have got a name for them for the actual gunpowder.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But I wonder if the name Rookwood and that came from that as well. They set me up with these Harry Potter references in this one. Right. Guy Henry's in Harry Potter as well.
There's no Batman references on the fact that it is kind of DC, and it's so that's all I think I could.
Okay, so before we do our seismic stars, just got a couple of social media comments to share. Okay, so the Scuttlebutt podcast left a GIF, and it said, "Without a doubt, one of the best." So they're a big fan of the film. Tangents of Horror said, "So good." Joshua Drake said, "Loved it ever since I saw it on cable as a kid." And Dr. Damon, who is Hayley McFarlane, she's someone me and Paul know from school, and she's an author, and we've had her on the podcast before. She said, "Love it." And that was the only comments we had. So thank you to everyone who got involved there. James, what would you give this out of 10? What's your rating for this film on its own merits?
I don't know, mate. Never good.
Answer.
Never good. I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay.
An 8 out of 10. Just I thought everything was, the explosions obviously were really good. The storyline was really good. I think the fact as well, he didn't really talk about it, mate, but the fact that we've got a freedom fighter and standing against government policies and all things like that. I mean, it's that stuff can happen. You know what I mean? It's not as if it can't. The government tells us stuff. We were getting too political, mate. Right now, do you know what I mean? Like the government can tell us stuff, and now and we would, believe it, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And there's people who wouldn't believe it. Don't do this and don't do that. There's always going to be people who are I don't know, skeptical about things. So I think the relevance of the film still holds up to the day, mate. Do you know what I mean? But I thought I like the fact as well, like you don't ever see Hugo Weaving's face, which I thought brought a lot of good to the film as well. I liked Natalie Portman in it. I thought she was good.
Yeah, she did a great performance. Yeah.
I thought she was good. That even though it's a British accent, I thought it was good. I didn't really I was probably convinced she was British, mate, to be honest with you, so that was good.
She's actually born in Israel.
I heard that. I'm sure I knew that before. I'm sure I heard that before. Aye, so I'm going to give, like I say, a good film, mate. Only thing I would say slightly downside to it was the fact that Sutler didn't get the big death that I thought he could have done. I thought maybe, I mean, could have shooting him seemed like it was like a whimper. I think it could have been a bit more graphical than that. It wasn't a rated film, so it could have been. Do you know what I mean? So,
Cool. Well, I'm going to give this one a 10, actually.
a 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think it's got the plot, it's got the acting, it's got the music, it's got the mystery, it's got the action. I feel like it's just such a good mix of all those kind of different aspects. I think the performances, particularly of V, but yeah, Natalie Portman was good as well. I just think there's just a lot there. I see like the letter and the backstories and the way they kind of just slowly unravel it as you go along, and there's the bit with the start and end with the blowing up of the government buildings and the music and the scenes, so like the dominoes and all the people in the masks. Like, I feel like it is quite a masterpiece, and I'm glad I've seen it, and it's definitely one I'll be checking out in November in the future, I would say.
Well, that's good. Also, like, I'm going to go back to the end scene because Finch asks Evie who he was, and she says he was me, he was you, he was everybody.
Yeah.
It was that kind of stand against the government, stand against oppression.
Yeah.
That was a good bit.
And
I'm surprised you gave it a 10, mate. I didn't expect that one.
No, it was very layered. There's a lot to it. And there's one I'm sure it's one to unpack more. I just couldn't think of anything particularly weak about it, and I felt like the strong points of it definitely outweighed anything. Like I can't think of any obvious criticisms, to be honest. Whereas in other films I could do.
I was kind of holding on between an 8 and a 9, to be honest with you, but I went an 8. Aye.
It's all in the same ballpark anyway. So yeah, that's us just kind of finishing off. So if you enjoyed the podcast, please consider following us on social media. This is where you can check us out in terms of audio and video. We are one subscriber away from 160. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider getting us up to that point, and make sure you check out the Podback Collective and the various podcasts associated with that. Okay, so just before we finish off, we're going to trial something new this week, James, aren't we?
Aye,
we were thinking of picking 3 movies each week. No, not each week, but on our rotation, and then allowing our kind of subscribers and social media friends to ultimately choose which of the 3 we go for. So if you don't have all 3, James, don't worry, we can catch this up in post. But if you have your options, I'd love to hear them.
I don't have all 3 yet, mate. I'm still toying with the idea of doing The Conjuring, to be honest with you, because I know it's past Halloween, but it doesn't have to be Halloween to review a film. But I'm still kind of toying with the idea of The Conjuring, and maybe Sinister. I don't know yet. I don't want to just give 3 kind of paranormal / horror films. So I might give a variety in there. I'm not really sure yet, but I'll get on to it today.
No worries. Okay, so this was our V for Vendetta review. I'm Colin. I hadn't seen it, but I have now. Paul, how could we make Paul watch this in the wrong order? I can't think of anything creative. He probably
watched it halfway through and realised he was halfway through and had to go back to the start.
He watched this, and then he read up on the history of Guy Fawkes. He didn't realise it was actually a real thing.
Or he watched the film, then went and read the graphic novel. I don't know.
Yeah, there's something in there. Anyway, what about you?
I am James. I have probably written an essay on it.
I think you actually should, because there's a lot in it.
Okay. I'll write an essay for your Christmas.
Thank you.